Hello and welcome. I'm Erica Strother, Community Specialist for ICMI, and I am back again with another edition of our Technology in 10 Industry Expert Interview Series. And today I'm happy to be joined by Neal Topf over at Callzilla. How are you today, Neal?
Doing great, Erica. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be part of this group and continue on in our participation with the ICMI. Thrilled to be here with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Glad to have you. So August has been the month of metrics here at ICMI, and we've been providing our community with resources around metrics that really matter most to the contact center. So I want to spend a few minutes chatting with you about that today, but before we get into the metrics portion of our conversation, I'd like to start out with something simple, just give our audience a little bit of a chance to get to know you. So Neal, if you don't mind, just tell me a little bit about Callzilla and your role there.
Perfect. So Callzilla is an outsourced contact center that originally, when we were founded 10 years ago, focused exclusively on the U.S. Hispanic market. We helped companies in the U.S. acquire and care for U.S. Hispanic customers. So U.S. Hispanic customers that needed to buy a product or service, we did that traditionally it started over the phone. And then we help companies care for those customers. And when you talk about U.S. Hispanic, typically the thought is that implies Spanish. And originally 10 years ago, that was exclusive, only Spanish. Our business has evolved in two different directions. We absolutely continue with a major focus on the U.S. Hispanic market, but as the U.S. Hispanic market itself has evolved, we've encompassed not only Spanish language, but also English language to help support the same idea, helping U.S. companies acquire and care for U.S. Hispanic customers, whether they speak English or Spanish. We've also opened up and have kind of rebranded ourselves to be a nearshore call center that helps the same U.S. companies, but deal with their, communicate with their general market or English-speaking customers, so that from our nearshore operations standpoint in Bogota, Colombia, we provide English language services both on sales and service. So service particularly, we help traditional customer service, help desk, tech support, and some of the other more traditional call center services. And we do that in an omni-channel fashion of voice or phone, email, chat, text messaging, and social media monitoring and engagement.
Okay, great. So as I did just mention, I want to spend a few minutes picking your brain about contact center metrics today. So I'm really curious to know, what is one unique metric that you guys measure at Callzilla that kind of sets you guys apart?
So it's a great question, and I would love to come and tell you something like really new and shiny and break out bells and whistles and toys and things like that. And I think there's a lot of places for that. And we found some of those. However, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the traditional metrics. I'm more of a traditionalist. I think that the bells and whistles, they're great and they have their place in kind of a laboratory, but the real traditional metrics I think are critical. If you don't do those well, it's hard to operate and be really successful, whether you're an outsourced call center or an in-house operation or somewhere in between. You've got to be really good at the traditional metrics. I think of the traditional metrics, a couple of them that are really important for us. One is, as an outsourced call center, we always ask our clients or engage with them and understand, okay, what are your KPIs in the service or customer care environment? Some of those, the traditional ones, could be first call or first contact resolution, FCR. We try not to deviate from that. That's a really important metric. How are you working to resolve the main issue, why a caller or chatter or customer, whatever channel they come in on, how are you working to resolve that issue in a really fast, expedient way? So we're a big fan of FCR. We're a big fan of customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction, I think, when the whole contact center industry started, wasn't much of a standard metric. It was kind of a result of something else. I think today it has to be a standard metric. Customer satisfaction, regardless of channel, whether it's phone, whether it's chat, whether it's email, whether it's social media, you want to get a sense of how satisfied or not that customer is, and the implications of that are huge. So how well as a company, you're keeping your customers happy, but also it gives you a great read on whether you as a contact center are doing a good job or not, and whether your customer service rep is doing a good job or not. So I'm a big fan of customer satisfaction and the different flavors and shapes and forms that can be measured. And that can be a whole different chat in and of itself. But CSAT is an important one. And then there's a new one that I used to poo-poo. I used to really not give it much attention, but adherence at the staffing level. What's going on at adherence? How many people are you supposed to have? how many, as they call them, butts and seats, are supposed to be there and show up on time, but how many of them actually really show up? And once you get a sense of adherence percentage, you can start to really dig deep and understand what's going on in your own contact center. Are you keeping your own employees engaged? How satisfied are your own employees? And if they are satisfied and engaged, what's the impact of that on the core business? So I'm a huge proponent of that. I'm not necessarily telling you anything new or shiny or that's going to earn me some new patents, but I think the focus and execution on those standard traditional metrics are going to be the differentiating factor whether you're an in-house center or an outsourced center to doing a really good job.
Okay, fair enough. That's also one of the questions we asked, I think, in a Twitter chat a few weeks ago, and I love hearing everyone's different take on that question. And I think the bottom line is that there's no set recipe for success. It's no one-size-fits-all. There are many different metrics that can be really important in any contact center, but I think it's what you do with that data that really makes the biggest difference. So, but
I agree with you. Part of our mission is execution. You have to be able to execute. It's great to put things on paper and to strategize and have all these ideas in the so-called cloud, but if you aren't able to execute on the most basic fundamental things, forget about it. You're not going to be able to operate. You're not going to be able to keep your customers happy. You're not going to be able to run your business, and it's going to be a disaster. So, like you said, the execution is really, really critical.
Absolutely. So, Neal, one of the things that I've learned about you guys through our Twitter chats is that you guys are huge proponents of gamification. So, how is it that gamification can help improve performance in the contact center?
It's a great question, and we think that it can. We are in the process of trying to prove that, in fact, it can. And we've seen some really, really interesting sort of rays of light and moments of success and huge sort of thumbs up moments where the bubble and the light bulb go off over our heads like, wow, that's it. We see this, and this can be the future. I'll admit we are very much still in the beginning stages, having implemented our first gamification program this year, the beginning of this year, so we're 8 months into it. There are some success indicators of success. We've shown some big leaps in performance, big improvements in KPIs, big jumps in our own engagement of our employees. We're trying to figure out how to make that not only sustainable, but something even more fundamental, how to measure it. It sounds easy, like how do you measure those things in a gamification world? And in theory, it should be easy. It's not. Some people like to refer to gamification as a marathon, not a sprint, and I very much agree with that. Gamification is not, press a button and everything all of a sudden improves and the agents perform and everyone is more engaged. It's not like that. It's a marathon, and you start and you warm up and you learn and you adjust, and we're very much in that process right now. Again, we think that gamification can be a huge differentiator for our own internal operation and on behalf of our clients. But we're still very much in that process of trying to figure out. I will share with you, for example, one of those big sort of rays of light, and when we saw the light bulb go off, we saw a big jump in performance for one of our clients and one of the big KPIs, a jump in over 30% from the bottom performing quartiles of our agents into quartile 1. We're trying to figure out ways to maintain that and to keep moving agents from the bottom quartiles into the top performing quartiles. It's still very much a work in progress, but if you can achieve that, what I just described, a big jump of 30% from the lower quartiles to the top quartile, if you can do that and use gamification as an important tool, it's a no-brainer, and that's what we're trying to figure out, and as we add and adjust and put things in our roadmap, we're working towards that.
Very nice. Well, it's definitely an interesting concept, and it's one that I know we're going to be discussing a lot at Contact Center Demo Conference in November in Chicago. I think we have a couple of sessions dedicated just to the topic of gamification and how contact centers can use it to better engage their agents and to decrease onboarding time, help out with training. So it's definitely a really interesting tool for the contact center today. So I have one last question for you, Neal, and I've mentioned our tweet chat a couple of times now. So every Tuesday we host a 1-hour chat on Twitter. It's at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and it's called ICMI Chat. And you guys have been faithful participants over the last couple of months. So curious to know, what do you guys enjoy most about this chat, and why would you recommend that other members of the contact center community get involved?
So the only addition I would add to the ICMI chat is if I could create something that was a hashtag and it said "I love ICMI chat," I would do it. We've loved participating in the chat. We're huge fans of it. Like you said, we've participated, I think, without missing a session for several months now, maybe almost since the beginning. Not sure. What we benefited from has been huge. We get to be part of a conversation on important trends. We get to have access to many of the thought leaders in our industry that participate, people that, if you just kind of try to make an effort off the street to meet them, you might not be able to meet them, but we get to be in sort of the same almost virtual room and share ideas and thoughts and discuss what's going on in our industry, and that's invaluable, right? Many of these people are spread out across the U.S. Some work in home offices, some work in brick-and-mortar offices. Being able to share on a weekly basis that opportunity and that moment to put our collective heads together and talk about the latest and the greatest is absolutely invaluable. And I think out of that, we've been able to make some important business and almost friendships with some of those participants. So the fact that they know us now, we know them, and we know that if we have a question or comment or thought or something comes up in our day-to-day business, we have a very close established network of who we could go to ask them for their opinions, their thoughts, their ideas. And that's invaluable. The technology of Twitter and chat, I personally used to not really give it much stock, and I've absolutely changed. And one of the big proponents of that change has been this chat. Looking and seeing the immediacy and speed with which ideas are exchanged and across the quality of the network that the chat includes has just been invaluable for us. I'm a huge fan. We will absolutely continue to participate in it, and I would encourage people who are, whether they're watching this or if they read about the chat, become part of it. It's invaluable.
Great. Well, I'm so glad that you guys have enjoyed it, because we have loved having you guys on board and as a part of our community. I know it's Tuesdays at 1 o'clock Eastern have become my favorite hour of the week, and like you said, it's just such a great opportunity to connect with your peers, to learn from them, to share advice and tips, and it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So Neal, thank you again for taking the time to chat with me today. And I'll look forward to chatting with you again soon on Twitter.
Absolutely. Erica, thank you so much to you personally and to the ICMI. We've enjoyed all of these different sessions. They're interactive, they're entertaining, they're engaging, they're educational, and we look forward to being a part of the ICMI for a very, very long time to come. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Neal, and have a great day.
Take care.